Hello there, Dr. Mel here. Happy Mindfulness Monday. It's June 22nd, 2020, which that means that I've been married for, March, April, May, 4 months today. I have been married. For those of you who don't know, I just got married in February 22nd, 2/22/2020. I'm super into numbers, so 22 is my number. It's been my number and it always will be, and it's been that way since birth, since I was born at 2:22 a.m. Now that you know that about me, let's talk about babies. Little bitty babies. So many of you, if you follow us on our Instagram page or on our Facebook page on Inspire Life, you know that I am trained in pediatrics and I love adjusting babies and infants and kiddos and obviously adults too, but there's just something about babies that you probably all know it warms the heart. The reason why I decided to get trained in pediatrics is because when I was in school, I started learning about the impact of birth, the impact of kids that don't go properly checked for misalignments, and how that can transcend into future problems down the road. Backing up to my personal story, I did not grow up with chiropractic care. I grew up with ear infections. I was born with a cord wrapped around my neck, and I actually didn't start getting checked and adjusted until I was in my early 20s. And I started to recognize how these things that happened when I was a kid and during birth actually impacted my central nervous system, my neurology. So it's one of the reasons why I like to focus on helping kids have a proper, healthy start from day one, because I did not grow up with that. And I dealt with health challenges growing up, and I didn't know there was another way. And you parents out there may have felt that, where you've tried everything, your kid's still struggling, whether it's colic, breastfeeding, fussy, not able to move and turn, or developmental milestones that really make a difference as far as making sure their reflexes are in check and making sure their balance is in check and that they're crawling and that they're walking and that they're cruising properly. Listen, my friends, these are things that if you have had a hospital birth, no judgment, these are things that they aren't always necessarily checking for because that's not what they're trained in. You know, if you're at the hospital, they want to make sure that the vitals are stabilized, they've done what they need to do, and then they send you on your way. However, when we look at birth, whether it's a vaginal birth or a C-section, or there's help from forceps, vacuum, suction, all of that, birth isn't always dramatic, but there can be some trauma involved, right? Even a vaginal birth, even a beautiful home vaginal birth, you have this beautiful baby come through the canal, there's no drugs, no surgery, none of that. The baby still has to work its way through that vaginal canal. And when the baby is doing that, and there's any sort of hang up, sometimes the central nervous system in their spine can be impacted. Now, here's the thing. This impact doesn't show up like adults where we get a sprained ankle and we can feel it. These small but profound misalignments in the spine don't always show problems right away until later down the road. Imagine this, if you get a little pebble in your shoe and you can kind of feel it, but you're like, I'll keep walking, it's fine. And let's say that pebble starts to just grow over time. Well, down the road, months later, you're gonna start to notice it, right? And maybe you have foot pain, then you have knee issues, then you have hip issues, and all of a sudden, you're dealing with all these issues when the problem and the cause started way back when. The same thing goes with babies and with adults and through the longevity of our life. Sometimes things happen when we're younger that have yet to produce a symptom until we're older. So that's why, and one of the reasons why, I like to check children, infants, a couple hours after birth is ideal, to see how are you doing? How's your spinal alignment? How are your reflexes? Are they breastfeeding? Can they get a good suckle on the nipple? Are they actually able to engage with the world? How is their proprioception? How is their tonality of their face and their symmetry? How is their cranium? If there's been any sort of manipulation or suction on their head, how is that doing? It's all about prevention. The same thing applies when you go to your dentist, right? They are checking your teeth. Regardless of how you're doing, you could be feeling fine, but they are checking and making sure that things are functioning well, that your teeth are doing well. And that's why they encourage you to brush your teeth and floss no matter what, right? Same thing with chiropractic. We want to make sure that baby has an optimal start right from the beginning. Again, whether it's a natural birth through the vaginal canal or you had to deal with a C-section and you had drugs and surgery, right? There's a whole spectrum, but it comes back to how is the baby doing? Their first moments of life matter so much. They're little sponges, right? They're just taking in all of this energy and information from the world and learning how to adapt. And that adaptation and functionality happens through your central nervous system. So if you imagine this for a second, if their central nervous system and spinal cord, which receives all that information and sends it to their little brain, figuring out the world, if that's interfered with and misaligned, how do you think they start to perceive the world? 1 day old, 1 week old, 1 month old, 1 year, 10 years, right? If the very system and the very pathways in which they receive and experience and respond to life are interfered with, how do you think that is going to show up in their body down the road? Ask yourself that question. Because yeah, kids aren't coming in with neck pain and back pain, and little infants aren't telling me my neck hurts, Dr. Mel. But you better believe that misalignment and subluxation of the central nerve system can happen without pain. Why is that, Dr. Mel? Why don't I feel the pain? Well, because pain is only about 10% function of your central nerve system. Your body is dealing with way more important stuff. Your breathing, your cardiovascular health, your respiratory health, your digestion, your menstrual cycles, all of that. Pain is only 10%. And generally, pain is one of the last things to show up. And sometimes it's actually one of the first things that starts to resolve and go away. So you're saying, Dr. Mel, that you can have misalignment from birth and trauma from birth and falls from birth that actually don't manifest as symptoms until I'm maybe 15 or 25 or 55? Yep. But here's the thing. You didn't grow up learning that. You didn't grow up in a culture learning about health being a process. You didn't learn that health isn't always about symptoms. You learn that when you have symptoms, to mask it, to get rid of it, to fix it, to not listen to your body. You learn that if you're feeling well, everything must be good. But what about those people who are golfing on a golf course, and then the next minute they feel fine, and then a couple minutes later they drop dead of a heart attack? Was that person fine? Was that person healthy? And that comes back to, how do you define health? See, for me, health is an integration of optimal physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and being able to function and adapt at the highest level possible. And that adaptation, your ability to adapt and respond to life and life demands, starts, I'm going to even challenge you here, it starts pre-day one. Yep, when you're in your mother's womb, it starts then. Because there's this beautiful intricate connection that exists with mom and baby inside the womb. And it's incredible. It's incredible. Honestly, take an embryology class, your mind will be blown. And when I started this pediatric training, which is about 1.5 years additional on top of regular chiropractic training, my whole world shifted to have a deep, profound respect and honor for caring for mom, knowing that as we adjust mom, the baby gets to receive the benefits of mom having a healthy nervous system too. And when you honestly see and hold and experience a baby that has been well adjusted since day one, even before they were conceived, let me tell you, my friends, when you are around an infant that has been well adjusted, your mind gets blown a little bit, because they're aware and they're awake and they're alive and they're vibrant. Even at day one, they lock eyes with you and you can see their soul beaming through. They feed well, they sleep well, they function well, they have a robust cry, they develop. This is, for me, the standard that I hold for humanity. That every single person on this planet deserves to be adaptable and be well aligned from day one. And that's why I have done mission work in different countries and why I am so advocating to get this work into schools that normally don't have access, to kids who are dealing with trauma since day one. Let's get chiropractic into hospitals, right? That should be on top of the vitals and doing all the things that they check. That should also be included in their first days of life. Get their spine and their central nervous system checked for misalignment so their body can function properly from the inside out from here on out. And listen, when you raise healthy kids, what do you think you get as adults? Healthy kids lead to healthy adults. And it starts with you. If you're thinking of conception, if you have kids, or even if you're just considering learning more about how to raise a healthy future generation, because my friends, we need it. We need it now more than ever, because our world is being flipped from the ground up. So wouldn't you want the future generation to be adaptable and healthy and well and not sick and medicated all the time and numbed out? That's a world that I'm voting for, is an awake and an alive and an aware world where we have less dependence on a system external and more reliance on our own innate healing system, our central nerve system, more reliance on ourselves and our cells. That's a world that I'm looking to create, and I hope that most of you will join me in that. So consider, what would it look like if every single infant on this planet had the ability to be checked from birth? Just think about that. That's my ask for you this week, is just to lean into that. Imagine if every kiddo, their nervous system was put at ease, and they were awake and they were aware and they were alive and they could feel that heart-to-heart connection with the people around them. Just imagine that. Take that into your day. And I want to say this before I sign off here, whether you're listening live or on a video cast or a podcast. If I have had the opportunity to care for you, your children, or your future children, thank you. It is one of the greatest honors. I literally cry every time I get to adjust a newborn or even a baby that's months old. It is so beautiful. And it, as you can tell, it lights my soul up, as you can hear in my voice and see. Adjusting a newborn is so gentle and it's so precious, and it's literally no much more pressure than testing a ripeness for an avocado or a tomato. It is so incredibly beautiful and sacred for this little vulnerable human being to be held and to be just slowly caressed into its optimal alignment. And you know the cool thing? I know I'm on another tangent here, but you know what the cool thing is? With babies, when you're adjusting infants, they move with you. They know where to be. It just takes that little bit of guidance, just that little bit of put it in the right direction, and the innate intelligence of the body turns on and says, yeah, that's where I belong. I'm here, I'm aligned, I'm focused, and I'm centered, and I'm ready to take on the world. So beautiful. So thank you. Thank you to all of you who have allowed me to care for you. Thank you to all of you, for those of you who have allowed me to care for your children. And thank you for those of you, if you have not worked with me, but you've been thinking about it, thank you to your future self for saying yes to you, because it is such an honor to be a guide in your power, in your reclamation experience of who it is you are becoming. It's an honor. I love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Peace, love, and have a great Mindfulness Monday.